barbershop conversation, guys. Feel free to hit the subscribe button. I get to New York Thursday morning, excuse me, and Sunday is Malcolm X's birthday. So Saturday, I want to go to his burial site. If anyone's willing to go, want to go Saturday morning, I would love. I'll put gas in your car. I'll buy you lunch. I may even get you a ticket to the fight. But let me know if any subscribers want to go. Hit my Instagram, Silent Heroes. Hit my DM, SILENTHEROS, and I want to talk about my interactions with JROC Saturday. And I think it'll inspire a lot of people, and it'll give you a greater understanding who JROC is. For those of you who don't know, who just been following me, who wasn't following me last week, I prefaced this fight by saying these are the beautiful things. The beautiful thing about this fight is I believe two men are going in with high character, high regards, have a great quality about them that, honestly, few men have. You can see, just like you, I can see through these athletes when I'm interviewing them. I can see right through them. I don't put them on the spot because then you get defensive. They shell up. They never do an interview with you again. But me getting on that plane, I knew I was dealing with two strong-willed men who are pretty determined, right? And there was one thing that stood out to me as it relates to Muslims, and I say this about every Muslim that I ever interact with. It's one thing being a black man in America. The toughest thing than being a black man in America is a Muslim black man in America, right? So let's delve into it. So I had just parked my car. I had a rental car because I had flown into BWI. I may be long-winded. I don't know how long this video is going to be, so fuck with me. All right. And so I had just come in, and I was about to go up the escalator, and JROC was coming down the escalator, and I gave him knuckles, right? And we're like in the foyer area of the hotel. And then I realized that I thought he was going somewhere, but then I realized he was just going somewhere, but he was waiting on something. I can tell by his energy, right? And so I got off my escalator. I went up the first two steps of that. So then I came down. I was like, "Hey, what's popping, man?" And he gave me knuckles again. And I was like, "Man," and we literally, I believe, we continued the conversation where we left off, coincidentally, not by plan. And I told him what I had just said. I says, "Hey, hey, what's up? Where you going?" He says, "I'm about to go get my uniform for the fight." And this is Friday before the weigh-in. And I was like, damn, nigga, because it's 8 o'clock. About 7:30. It's about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning before the weigh-in, which is Friday morning, right? And I'm like, damn, nigga, you on weight already? He says, yeah. I said, I'm shocked. Because I'll be honest, these fighters are on weight literally an hour before the fight. I mean, an hour before the weigh-in. Most parts. No matter what they say or what they do, them niggas don't go to bed on weight. You know what I mean? They want that last meal. They want to reserve that last ounce of energy. It's just protocol in many cases. I'm not going to say all because you're going to get someone to comment, "Oh, we go in 1 pound underweight." Okay, I get you. So, and I was shocked. He was like, "Yeah, me too. I thought you would have maybe 2 pounds to burn." You know what I mean? And he actually agreed with me, and we're having this conversation about making weight. And he was exactly 154.8 about 7:30 in the morning as I'm talking to him. Right. And so we're talking and I engage with him and he says he's going to go pick up his uniform. So I said, "Man, I got a rental car. I'll just take you." Because he was about to call an Uber. I said, "Man, I'll take you." And it was about 20 to 30 minutes down the road. And so we go to the FedEx. So we get in and we're talking. And he has this thing, which is pretty unique and pretty special, man. It in real time, it calculates your hydration levels as you're cutting weight. And he has it around his neck. And I see it moving in real time. And he literally explained it to me, right? And then so we're talking, small talk. And obviously, the conversation is obviously Hurd versus JROC, right? And we're talking. And I'm like, "Man, you got a tough fight ahead of you. I don't give a fuck what nobody say. I think this is a tough-ass fight." And JROC is telling me, "Nigga, I'm better than this nigga. I'm more skilled. I'm better. I actually think it's going to be an easy fight." Right? And I'm like, "Well, I think it's going to be a tough fight. And I think you basically better come with it." Right? And so we're talking and then we level up the conversation. I'm not going to divulge what we talked about about these two fighters because Jared Hurd has a rematch clause with JROC, and I don't want to talk about the details of it, but I'll tell you the topic of conversation. We talked about Jared Hurd versus JROC, right? And he's throwing stuff at me, and I'm being devil's advocate. It's no sense in me agreeing with him. I mean, not agreeing with him to create controversy, but just pretend that I am like Jared Hurd's team, right? And I'm like, well, if you do this, he gonna do that. He's like, man, I'm this, I'm that, right? And we're talking in great detail. Like I'm saying, how about if Jared Hurd does this? He say, I'm gonna do this, right? And I was like, man, this kid is pretty sharp, right? And then we started talking about Charlo because I talked to him about the press conference, and he said he actually didn't see it, but he heard about it, right? And we talked in great detail, in great length about, and we're still on our way to go pick up his FedEx uniform. And I actually felt pretty honored. Like I was thinking I will be a part of his story, 10-second story, 3-second story. This random media guy took me to go get my uniform before I became the unified world champion, right? And so I thought it was pretty cool. I can't wait to tell my son this story. When JROC goes into the Hall of, he's going to the Hall of Fame based off of what we can perceive to be his career, right? And so we're talking, and we start talking about Charlo. And I'll be real. We got as deep can be, and we made a vow to one another that we can't divulge what we talked about as it relates to Charlo, because obviously if Charlo wins, right, he's going to have to fight Charlo. But I think I've seen Charlo's last 7-8 fights, and we're just having a conversation about how to beat Charlo, his strengths, his weaknesses. By no means is we're actually talking about Charlo in high reverence, right? And talking about how he's an aggressive fighter, tough fighter. But I think we were talking, and just to keep it real, we talked about some high level shit, and I think that he was kind of appreciation of my level of focus as it relates to breaking down the fights, because we talked about Jared Hurd, and he was right on point. And I told him something about fighting Jared Hurd, and I saw him nod his head like, wow, 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 wow. But moreover than that, he just thought he was the better fighter that night. He said he gonna go in and dominate Jared Hurd. And I'm like, it's gonna be a tough ass fight. That nigga big, yo. That nigga big. And he's like, yeah, he big, yeah, but I'm skilled. I got more skill than him. I'm better. And then that leads into the Jamal Charlo fight. I'm gonna end that Jamal chapter there because we got into some high quality shit, and I don't want to divulge that stuff. And so we get into Jamal Charlo, and he's like, man, people discounted me because I lost to him, and I ain't got no chin. I'm this, I'm that, I'm not as good. And I was like, honestly, you were winning on this. I had you winning on the scorecards against Jamal Charlo, and so we agreed, and by then we're talking about. And then we segue. He asked me a question. And I'm real honest, especially if you're a black man. I'm going to be real honest. If we're in a one-on-one setting, I'm going to be honest about who I am as a person. And he asked me, so you do this full time? I'm like, no, I'm talking about media. It's something that I'm really passionate about and that I love. I've been in level boxing since I was 11 to 12 years old. And I'm just fortunate enough that I have a platform or the opportunity to actually cover you guys. And he says, how you make your money? And I says, well, I do well in the property game in California. And he's like, really? And then he perked up. And by then we're 15 minutes in, 20 minutes into our ride, and we arrive at the FedEx station. And so we're small talking. And then the more important stuff will be on the ride back, which I want y'all to hear. So he gets out the car and I park. And so I'm waiting for him. It takes about 15 minutes for him to get his package. And they had to go in and get his package. And he actually has his ring stuff there. And I never once thought about recording this conversation at all because it's kind of awkward. It don't make sense. You know what I mean? It was just real two brothers talking. And so on the way back, we continued the conversation about property. And he was telling me his first check he ever got, he bought a house. And I thought that was one of the more impressive things I want to hear. And And you know how much that turns me on. My shit said ding, 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 ding. Really? And then I was telling him about my property and how I leverage money, right? And he was telling me the story about how he has so much money in the bank because, you know, and I was telling him, for real, I said, it's easier for you because I don't get my money in one lump sum. Fighters at that level get their money in one lump sum, whether it's $500,000, $1 million, and they have money to play with. It takes me months to accumulate that type of cash flow, right? And he was telling me how he said I can share this story. So he says how he pays cash for everything, right? And I've never had that amount of cash in my hand, especially when I started. I have equity now. If I pull stuff out, I can have that cash on hand, but that would be foolish to pull that out just to have cash on hand. You want to leverage that to another ascending asset, you know? So we're talking, and he pays cash, and he talks about, and now we're talking real deep. We're talking real honest numbers. I'm not going to talk about the numbers that he and I make and he make. And I explained to him, like on some levels, I took a risk, right? I said I was a school teacher. I got laid off, and I just started betting on myself, parlaying property and this and that. And I also told him that Dre is a partner because she's a doctor, and so with her being a doctor, it's easy for me to take chances on property and put $200,000 down on the property because I know Dre has my back. No matter if I fall on my face, I know our bills are going to be met, right? And so at the end of the day, when you're in a relationship or you have a teammate or you have a partner, somebody can hit singles, but somebody got to hit home runs, right? And that's the storyline, the baseline of Dre and I being business partners and the level of success that we've accumulated, right? And so here's where the story gets strong for me in terms of building equity and building generational wealth. And he's talking about how he wants to build houses and develop houses. And I tell him, when I buy a building, I fix the problem so I don't ever have to come back in that unit again. He's talking about how he guts property out and he fixes it and he has houses and he's making money on the houses. And I'm like, damn, this shit is amazing. But he pays he pays cash for his houses. So I'm trying to teach him the game and to leverage his money so he can have assets and assets on top of assets on top of assets, right? And so we're talking, and where am I? Oh, he says he wants to buy a 22-unit building for $1 million, right? I'm like, you can do that, because he was telling me the story about how he thinks, right? He says at one point he had like $500,000 in the bank, at one point $300,000, whatever the case may be. And he says he knows if he doesn't create an asset, 6 months he's gonna have, well, he said $1 million. It's gonna be $1 million. 3 months later, it's going to be 900,000, then 800,000. Next thing you know, you don't have any money. He says, I'm not really into buying Rolexes and buying fancy cars and doing this. I'm into, if it's over, he said, if it's over 10, I don't believe if anything over $10,000 and it's not an asset, I don't want it, right? And in the post-fight interview, he says, I got a Rolex. I don't even know if it's real or fake. I got one of these corny ass Rolexes, and I bust up laughing because that's basic who I am. I got an everyday Rolex that I wear. I mean, I have 2 or 3 beautiful watches, but I wouldn't dare spend an ginormous amount of money on jewelry today in my life, right? And so here's where I really want you guys to understand something, and I was trying to make sense to him as it relates to property. He says, well, I got cash, and he said his credit is sterling credit, and I'm like, you got sterling credit, and you get all this money at one time? Here's what you do. And here's what I do too as well, right? He said he wanted to buy that 22-unit building property. And let's hypothetically say that each unit brings in $1,000 a month. That's $22,000 a month gross. And you're going to have a mortgage payment. You know, a mortgage payment on $1 million is probably $7,000 a month. You got the upkeeping, $3,000. So let's say he's clearing about $12,000 a month, assuming he buys this property, right? So I'm actually going to text him. I'm going to create a spreadsheet for him so he can afford, to show him that he can afford that 22-unit building, right? I'm going to send it to him just as a gift. And so he's talking, and I says, here's how you do it, man. Here's how you do it. I says, You're a man who makes great income, right? You're blessed, you're fortunate, but you need to start using the bank's money. You need to start using OPMs, which is other people's money. And so we're talking, and I tell him, here's what you do. I says, you don't pay your taxes. And you guys are like, oh my God, what the fuck you talking about? I says, listen to me carefully. Listen very carefully to me. Let's say you make $1 million, right? The taxes on $1 million is probably, I don't know what it is, but let's say hypothetically it's $300,000. And he has a fight in May. So let's use this date, May 11th. He has a fight date, right? And let's say he gets $1 million. We're just gonna say $1 million because it's easier for you guys to understand, right? Let's say hypothetically he makes $1 million and he got to pay $300 in taxes. Don't pay your taxes. He's like, what the fuck you talking about? Basically, I can hear him trying to understand where I'm going. I says, first thing you do when you get your $1 million check, because he gets his check as soon as he steps out of the ring. As soon as he steps out the ring, go in the back, there's a person handing him the check. And Vada comes. It's like simultaneously. He gets a check, Vada comes, say, we got to go pee. You know what I mean? All that's happening in a matter of 90 seconds. At the end of every fight, basically. You got to go pee. You get your check. You saying congratulations at the same time, and you hand your check to your trainer. That's typically how it goes. I see it in the back a lot. And I says, what do you do? I says, you buy a building. So you say you want that $1 million building, 30% on a commercial building. You probably got to put down anywhere between $300,000 and $400,000 on a commercial property, because commercial properties to a bank, it's a higher risk than a 4-unit or less. So they assume. So let's say hypothetically he has to put down 30%, which is exactly what his taxes are. So he puts that down, right? And he puts the down payment down on the house, which is his taxes, right? I says, here's what you do. Your tax money, you put into a property immediately. You get it lowers your taxable income immediately. So now JROC will not be taxed on that $1 million. He will be taxed on the expenses of that new property and the taxes of that. He got to pay the taxes on that property too. So now he may only be taxed $850,000, right? And I'm explaining this to him as he's driving, right? And he's like, oh shit. So now instead of paying $1 million, you're only going to be paying taxes on $850,000. So let's say 30% of $100,000, 30,000, half of that. He just saved $45,000 in taxes on just buying a building. You see what I'm saying? You guys get where I'm going? It's making sense now. Ha ha aha moment. So he's like, ha. And then I says, then what you do is you get an extension. This is 2019. Next April 2020, April 16th, whatever date we pay our taxes, you get an extension. He's like, why the fuck would I get an extension? I see his wheels turning. Why the fuck would I get an extension? I said, so you don't have to pay your taxes. And by September or October, because the interest on your taxes is literally less than 1%, right? Literally way low, way low, way low in comparison to the amount of money you can draw in and make, right? Billionaires and millionaires do this all the time, right? So you get an extension on your taxes, right? And now he done fought 3 times. Listen to me. He's done fought 3 times by then, right? So he's fought May, he's fought December, and he's probably fought next May. That's typically how Al Heyman fighters fight. They fight twice a year, right? People say, right? So he's had 3 checks in this time span, right? So he gets an extension. Listen to me now. Now he goes and buy a second building before the year ends. Listen to me carefully. And let's say he bought another commercial building, right, for $300,000. Remember, he got $1 million check, and it's cash. It's $1 million cash because they don't take taxes out when they hand you your check. So let's say he has $1 million, right? Now he has $700,000. Now he buys another 22-unit building, and this is possible. This is just common sense. This ain't no rocket scientist. He goes and takes out another loan for $1 million. Now he has 44 units. Listen to me, guys. He has 44 units, low end, bringing in $44,000 a month, right? Now you accumulate all that over months. Now let's say he buys 2 buildings. Let's say he buys one next month in June, and he buys a second one in September. So now you buy June. He has 22,000 gross. Let's say 22,000 gross times June, July, August, September, October, November, December. 22,000 times 6 is $132,000. I'm guesstimating, right? And now let's say he has another $22,000 for 4 months. That's $88,000 a month gross, right? 88 plus 132 is $212,000 gross. Now let's just take half of that. Let's just take half of that. Listen to me. Let's just take half of that away and just say those are his mortgage payments and all that. He has $106,000 cash flow, right? Now, his taxable income done dropped from 850. Now let's say he just bought another property that's 700,000. Now he's only paying taxes on 700,000 as opposed to that $1 million that he had. You understand what I'm saying? So now he's paying 30% of the 700,000. Aha, genius. Aha. Now he's only paying 210,000. Listen to me, hear me out. Now, that 106,000 that he made, he applies that to his taxes. You understand what I'm saying? He don't have to get the extension because he done got these properties, but he used his tax money to accumulate. But you still get the extension, right? And you apply that 106,000 to your taxes. Now you only owe 30% of 700,000, 30 times 7, 210,000. Now you only owe $104,000 in taxes for 2019, right? Now he does all of this, and now he has he's had 2 fights since then, right? Maybe in December, so his taxable income may have gone up. But let's say it's January, right? Let's say it's January. If it's not a paper, let's say it's in January. Just so it can be easier for you guys to understand. He fights again in January, and then he fights again in May. Now he only owes $104,000 in taxes from 2019. He takes that out of his first check in January. He has the option to pay it, or he can invest it. My idea would be invest it, okay? Now, he puts himself on a quarterly tax system, which I do, which breaks it up to like $25,000 a year, every 3 months, $25,000. So let's say now he only pays $25,000 in quarterly taxes, right? So every 3 months he has to pay $25,000. That's only 1 month. Listen to me. That's only 1 month of rents for him. He has 44 units and only has to pay $25,000 4 times a year. Boom. 44 units times 1,000 is $44,000 a year. I just made him a millionaire in 365 days. I just made JROC a millionaire in 365 days. Do you guys get the logic? You guys get the math? And then I told him, once you do this, then you walk into City Hall and you use your leverage. You're a unified world champion. You know, move to a smaller municipality where you have local city government. You will be the king and that hero. Everything will run through you. They just want to hang out with you and be a part of you and get free tickets to the fight. Now you have the grants. Now you have first dibs on vacant lots because you have the cash flow. And now you know how to manipulate tax code. I shouldn't be giving y'all this shit for free, but I am today. All right. And I'm going to put this on my Patreon. Join my Patreon. Click the link in the description box. Join my Patreon and ask any questions you guys have. All right. If you're asking me about property, I won't answer it on YouTube. All right. Join my Patreon and I'll gladly answer it. Now, JROC just became a multi-millionaire. Listen to me. In 365 days. He got his fight checks, and now he's making gross $44,000 a month off of 44 units. That's just, he's getting more than, but I'm just using round numbers, right? So that means like the taxes, and because he's going to have some units where they're paying $1,200 a month, $1,300 a month, depending on Section 8. And then I was teaching him about Section 8. He wasn't really a fan of Section 8. And that's the meat of the story and where I wanted to get to. Along with his fight checks, which will be over $1 million, over $2 million. I don't know, 3. I'm not going to. The 3 fights that he's had, plus his rent, he's a multi-millionaire. He's rich. He's rich. That's the Frederick Hawthorne plan. That's how I became wealthy. Simple. It takes common sense. It takes a leap of faith. It takes discipline. Because if you don't pay your taxes and you go buy a fucking Rolls Royce, you don't pay your taxes, you take 3 bitches on vacation. You overpaid for pussy and you leverage your financial freedom and your legacy of your last name because you were selfish. And that's the truth. So we get to the hotel, and by then you can tell that this is a 20-minute conversation on the way back. He say, thank you. I wish him well. And we basically forget about each other. He goes into fight mode. I don't really talk to him thereafter. But this is a side of JROC that you guys need to understand. He already owns a handful of properties and making income. He told me how much money he's making. And if he uses other people's money, oh shit, he can be a multi-millionaire. Because if you're making $22,000 a month, I'll give you $7,000. You're grossing $15,000. Barbershop conversations, man. It was a hell of an experience taking JROC. It was a perfect coincidence because if you fuck with me on this channel, you know how much I respect JROC and how much and what he stands for. And so that's it. That was my ride with JROC, and it was pretty cool. He had this box. Hey, here's the funniest shit ever. Y'all gonna laugh at this shit, right? Right. I don't think he either he didn't want to let go of the merchandise, right? So we're in the car and I'm about to put the car in reverse because I'm in the parking slot, right? And he has his box in front of his lap in his lap. And I'm like, JROC, nigga, put your box in the back seat. I don't think he wanted to let it go. I mean, I don't think he wanted to let it. I said, man, so you can be comfortable, man. That was funny to me. Like, I don't know what he was thinking, but in my head, I was like, he don't want to let that shit go. You know, he had his ring entrance outfit on. He had obviously we now know it was Saturday. It was a robe and those trunks and those shoes and everything that came with it. So anyways, man, barbershop conversation. JROC, thank you for trusting me, for allowing me to take you. I was driving real conservative. I didn't want to fuck up his money. You know what I mean? Imagine that story. You know what I mean? People get a hold of that story. He gets into a wreck with a media member. You know what I mean? And I didn't shake his hand because I told him I don't like shaking fighters' hands before the fight fight week, because that's your moneymaker. I don't want to be the dude that fucking bruises your knuckles or bruises your bones, you know? So anyways, man, thanks, JROC. I look forward to covering you some more. Now you get prime time slots now, nigga. You the king now. You got 3 belts and you get to unify in December. I believe they're going to unify in December. That's the goal. And Barclay, the fight, if he don't get the rematch, the fight, if Hurd opts out of the rematch or says he wants to go another route and let them fight for all the belts, and then he comes back and fights. I don't know, however he wants to play it out. Maybe he wants, you know, because, you know, he may not be as much a prisoner of the moment. Maybe Hurd says, you know what, I'm going to let Charlo or Harrison Winner fight JROC, and I fight for all the belts. You know, I don't know. It's going to be a round robin between those 4 and Erickson Lubin and Castano. You know what I mean? Maybe Laura wants to get back in the mix, so we'll see. But anyways, man, barbershop conversations, man. Shout out to JROC. Thank you for this. Hopefully you guys learned from this. If you don't understand, don't send me a DM if you didn't rewatch this video twice, okay? Write down the numbers, do the math, and it'll all make sense. Barbershop conversations, man. Feel free to hit the subscribe button. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.